Welcome to another episode on the Purpose Filled Life podcast. Thanks for being here. I'm your host, Ashley Stratton, and today we have an amazing guest. We have Siri Payne. She's a life coach, and we are going to get to know her and get some wonderful advice from her. So Siri, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you. And one thing we really like to focus on this podcast series is we like to interview mothers who are pursuing their goals and their dreams and still trying to put those most important priorities first, like our faith and our family. So tell us about yourself and then some of the goals that you've accomplished during motherhood and kind of how that has looked for you.
What a loaded question. So I'll try my best. So I'm Siri, as you heard, like the iPhone. I have been married for 23 years. I'm a mom to currently now 3 teenagers, but I did have those 3 teenagers in 3 years. I work with women in business to help them really organize and streamline their time so that they can enjoy the life that they're so busy creating. And so many of my clients tend to have a creative brain, ADHD tendencies, ADHD, something of that nature that just really allows them to have lots of creative ideas. And then I just kind of help them strategize their home and their life and their business so that they can make those dreams happen. But before doing that, I taught special education. And so some of those goals that I guess I could, parenting 3 teenagers, right? I guess I could say is a big goal and accomplishment during motherhood.
Yes.
But I did teach special education, like I said, and I got my master's degree in special education while I also was pregnant with my second baby and my husband was in PA school. So that was a pretty busy time for us. I certified as a life and business coach in 2018. But while I was doing that, I also taught school full time. And I served as the president of our church's women's organization. So that was a crazy fun time too, and lots of things that were happening. And I don't know, let's see. You know what? I ran my first half marathon when my children were 2, 4, and 5. And in our first 16 years of marriage, we moved 18 times. So that's been quite I don't know if it's a goal, but definitely an accomplishment.
Oh, for sure. I think that absolutely is. Are there any new goals that you're working on right now? That was a huge list. Is there anything new or are you just trying to maintain your business and what you're doing now?
Yeah, I love that you said that because that's probably my answer. Just being a present mom, really enjoying my kids, automating the business that I have, and just keep it going and keep enjoying life. I'm really in a spot where I love life. And so my goals are just to keep enjoying and loving and learning and growing, but without kind of, rocking the boat in any certain area.
Yeah, I love that. I love that part of your goals is to be a present mom along with your business goals, because I think there is a place where we can do both, right?
I
So
agree.
I saw that you shared on social media that you had a goal to make 6 figures while working part-time, and you've achieved that. And I saw you shared your award you got from the life coach school. So congratulations. I think that's absolutely incredible, a feat that a lot of people don't get to. But I would like to know, could you walk us through the process that took over time? Because I think a lot of those goals, we can have those big goals and visions, but I know it doesn't happen overnight. And any adjustments or habits that you had to have to make that goal possible.
Yeah, so I had to get really good at being intentional and being present wherever I was because I was needed in so many different areas, as I mentioned before, all the different things I was doing during that time. So when I was doing, whether it was church stuff or school stuff or coaching, just being very present. Then I had to just remind myself and really remember to honor the commitments that I made to myself. Because often as moms, when we set those goals or we have commitments for ourselves, sometimes those are the first to go. And so I had to remind myself why I thought that those were important for me. And also remind myself that as I up level and I reach my goals, it's really a family thing, right? Our kids are learning from us. Maybe we're asking them to step in and do things that they hadn't ever done before. So they're learning new things as we do take on goals. And as we take on new goals, they're watching our example and they're watching how we do it. So I just kind of remind myself that goals aren't just for me, they're for everyone around me. I also had to make sure that I remembered I was just as important as the people around me, right? Not more important, but just as important. And I had to get good at saying no, which is the hard thing when I really wanted to say no, and saying yes only when I felt like the opportunities enhanced my priorities and allowed me to really grow in the way that I wanted to grow.
Absolutely. I think that is one of the hardest things to do as a mom when you're pursuing a goal is to say no to some of those things. So this isn't a question that I submitted to you beforehand, but I noticed you said twice that you had to be present. That's something you had to focus on. Is there anything you did to be present? Because I feel like that's sometimes difficult even for me when I know I have things I'm working on in the back of my head and I'm making dinner and I get distracted? How do you, are there things you do to be present as a mother or in your business?
Yeah, I think we'll talk a lot about that within the different questions that you have asked, which is great. And it really stems on our priorities. But when we have time scheduled for the things that we're doing in our day, I feel like we're more present. It's when our brain is distracted because we don't know, quote unquote, like when we're going to get that thing done. So, for example, let's equate it to a pile of laundry. If you don't have like a laundry day, like laundry day is Tuesdays and Thursdays or whatever, and the laundry just stacks up, then we're not really present, right? We're like, oh, the laundry. Every time you walk by the laundry, every time you see the laundry, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do the laundry. And that takes us out of whatever we were doing. Like if we were going to go read a story to our child and we see the laundry pile, then of course, then all we're thinking about is this laundry. But if we have a time when we're going to do stuff, whether it's cooking dinner, meeting with this person, spending time with our kids, we're more able, I guess, to be more present because we know, okay, this is the time I have allocated for this. And then when that day or that time comes, then we work on that other thing. So we can just kind of let's say the laundry pile go on a Wednesday. It means nothing to us on a Wednesday because you're like, oh yeah, it's getting bigger, but that's okay because I'll tackle it on Thursday.
I love that. I love that. So having things scheduled out so it doesn't take up space in your brain. And you don't even have to worry about laundry on Tuesday because you're going to do it on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys
Yeah.
have, I don't know, like, but there's a lot of examples and it doesn't always have to be about cleaning, but that's just one that I think a lot of moms can resonate with. But if we're just scheduling, and lots of times people think that if we schedule, we don't have as much flexibility, but it's actually the opposite, right? Because look, now on Tuesday or on Wednesday, whatever day, you get to have all the flexibility in the world and do what it is that you want to do on that day, because then on Thursday is the day you'll do your laundry. So it actually frees up that mental clarity of thinking about it, and which also then creates a lot more time to be more present, more aware, and enjoy the life you're having rather than all those negative thoughts reminding you of all the things you're not getting done.
Okay, here's a tricky question for my own selfish needs. What if you have distractions come up, for example, that are out of your control, like my children? I'm thinking, okay, I could have this thing scheduled, but what if like my kids get in a fight and I had planned to do this thing for an hour and now I have, oh my gosh, my kids are melting down and they really just need mom to be present and to come snuggle them and read a book. And okay, now that hour's gone. What do you do with things that come up like that are right in your face, that are urgent and important, you need to take care of then when you have other things scheduled? How do you deal with that?
I encourage my clients to create an unplanned hour in their schedule. So just creating that white space. So sometimes with smaller kids or more demanding jobs and roles, maybe they have 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon. But when our schedule is so full, then you have this thing you wanted to do and then your kids need you. We can't even be present with our kids because we're like, oh my gosh, hurry up and stop being sad. Hurry up and stop needing to snuggle because I need to go do this thing over here. So if we have an unplanned hour or an unplanned time in our day, then we are able to just quickly shift, right? And so you're like, okay, let's say at 2:00 we're going to have this podcast together, but then your kid needs you. You're like, it's okay. I can like snuggle this kid, do what I need to do. And then whenever I was going to have my unplanned hour, maybe it's from 4 to 5, you then can put that activity in from 4 to 5. So that way, when you do get a call from the parents or the school saying, hey, we need a parent to come pick the kid up, we're not having, like, I call it emotion stacking. We're like, might be sad for our kids, worried about they're sick and worried about like how you're going to take care of them. And then the emotion stack is, and now you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling behind because you're not going to get that thing done. So then you can't be present with what really needs you. And it might be your kid at that time. So that's my big solve for that, especially with all of us that are moms that have kids that definitely have a lot of unexpected in our time.
I love that.
Unplanned hour.
Love the unplanned hour. Let's do it. So I know that you run in your own business and you're working with women all the time. Are there things that you love and things that you don't love? And what are those? What's your favorite part of life coaching? And then what's the grind? What are the not so enjoyable things and how do you get those done?
So I absolutely love working with clients. I love helping them be able to reach new possibilities in their business and their life. I really enjoy creating social media content and social media posts. In fact, I put that at the end of my schedule every day because that's usually when we're tired and we're ready to be done. But it's so fun for me that I really love to have the opportunity to create and help and teach others. I do like to speak and teach at retreats and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. I'm also a very firm believer of leading with our strengths in all areas of our life. So I really enjoy like helping my clients uncover their strengths and discover what they love, and being able to focus more on doing those things in their life, their business, and like their motherhood. And then, so for the tasks that I don't particularly love, I like to stop and ask myself, why am I doing them? Right? And do I like the reason why? And if not, is it possible to hire that task out or to do without that task in my day or in my business? And so that's kind of a fun thing, because sometimes the tasks that we don't enjoy, we could possibly just not be doing them, like not have to do them. And so that gives us an opportunity to be like, why am I really doing them? Do I like the task? No. Do I like the result? Maybe. And so that's another thing, is being able to focus on the result that it brings. And example that I like to use for this is, we rarely want to stop and change a baby's diaper, for example, right? Mm-hmm. But do we like the results, right? Like maybe we want to stop smelling the bad odor, right? Maybe we want to keep our baby from getting diaper rash. Maybe we don't want our baby to have to sit in a dirty diaper. So we might not really want to change the diaper, but we want the result of our child, right, not having to have a dirty diaper. And so when we focus on the result that the task is going to produce, even if it's one that we don't particularly enjoy, we're more likely to complete it, and we're more likely to feel a little more like, I don't know, instead of like an animosity and regret and like, oh, overwhelmed about it, we're actually more willing to actually do the task and get it done.
I love that. I like thinking about the end result, because you like creating social media. I hate it. It's like my worst thing, creating social media posts, and it's just so time consuming, but I like thinking about that. What about the result? And the result is I'm connecting with my audience. I'm connecting with other like-minded women, which is what I love. So I like thinking about it in that way. Like I can do this so I can focus on the result. That's an amazing way to think about it. Love it. So if a woman came to you and asked, how do I balance being a good mom and a wife and still show up for my business and my goals and my faith, what advice would you give her?
So I would definitely say, and I would like shout this from the rooftops, is to define your priorities. So knowing what you're focusing on and the why you are focusing on it is the way to actually achieve the balance. Another thing I like to tell people about balance is, I would tell them that balance is a feeling, right? It's not something that we obtain. It's not something that like we achieve, right? It's not like all of a sudden we're like balanced, like physically, right? It's something that we get to feel at the end of the day when we have been working on what I call our true priorities. So when we define our true priorities, that is the process that I use to help my clients streamline all of the roles that they have in life, to really make sure the things they're scheduling and the things they're working on every day, that they're complementing each other rather than competing with one another. Because when they compete, that's actually when we feel like out of balance the most, is when we're like not able to say yes to things and no to things in the way that really feels good. So just to kind of like recap, when you know your priorities, right, and you know what you're balancing, right, and those are the priorities, those are what we're putting on each side of this like a little teeter-totter, so we know what we're balancing. All the other things in our life on our schedule that aren't priorities, they will naturally fall off our to-do list, which then leaves us with much less things to try to balance. So it's even more like easier to achieve that balance, because we actually have less things on each side of like this teeter-totter.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I wonder how many women too, even listening, have their priorities defined and written down, even, thinking about them that deeply. So I love that advice. That's so good. So you work with a lot of women, you help them define their priorities, to find that balance. Is there an issue that you're finding that arises among the women you coach, and how do you help them with that? Like a common issue that comes up a lot, because if there is one, I'm sure we can all relate to it and learn from it.
Yeah, most of the time it's they want to have more time, and they want to feel more successful in whatever it is, whether it's their motherhood, the thing they're doing, just in life in general. Maybe they've kind of lost that purpose. They want to feel something of success. So basically time success in some way. They may change it, they may say a little bit differently, but that's really what it's boiling down to. So to get that, I help them again by walking through that powerful exercise of defining your top 5 priorities, and then defining the true why behind those things being a priority. So I would even maybe encourage the listeners to do that, since you just asked that question, is first, maybe pause right after I say this and write down the 5 priorities that you have in life, right? That you think that you want to be a priority. And then when you write down those priorities, go ahead and write down why you think it's very important. And that's the part of my program that takes a little bit more time, is this why. And I walk them through a very specific formula that really opens it up for their life in general, but that will take too much time for a podcast. But just so you know, like, priorities can be in whatever you want them to be, but they're usually in areas such as like relationship, health, business, maybe your different roles like mom, wife, parent, family, spirituality. Sometimes it might be like a home organization, then self-care, self-development, or even like happiness or something like that. So those are some areas that it is. So maybe write down your top 5 priorities. And then I want you to write down the top 5 ways you spend your time each day. And when I have my clients do this, what I have found in all of the years and all of the many, many hundreds of women that I've worked with, I've only had one that had them match up, right? So don't be shocked if they don't match up, right? And that's kind of a beautiful thing to realize, is because then you get to question, are these really my priorities, or are these just things I think they should be, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get to decide, do I need to shift my priorities, or do I need to shift my schedule to reflect and get the priorities that I want to focus on? And what I've noticed the most is that many of my clients, they're coming to me because they want to grow their business. And then when they say, how do you spend your top 5 ways you spend your time each day? Growing their business or working in their business isn't even on there.
Wow.
And so the beautiful thing is whatever was missing is most likely that one thing that you are wishing you were better at, right? You were wishing you had more success at. And so whatever's missing from your list, it's like, if I was going to hire a coach, that's probably what you would have hired: a coach or a friend or a mentor, someone to help you through. And so the beautiful thing is like, oh, I just have to figure out how to get it in my schedule, and then we'll be much more successful, because before it wasn't really even hitting the way we were spending our time each day.
Wow. I need to do this now. I need to go write down my top 5 priorities and the way I spend my time. And I'm fascinated to see if they match up. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to message you and report back to you.
Yes. Now that you know the secret, though, I don't know, because usually I like have them do it separately, and then they don't know like the ending, but yes, it's interesting to find out.
Yes, that's so fascinating. So what would you say to some women who are listening to this and that are dealing with challenges, health related, relationships, and just life in general? When someone's presented with a challenge, how do they keep moving forward towards their goals? Should they stop what they're doing and deal with the challenge, or should they keep working at their goals? What would be your advice to deal with a challenge while pursuing a goal?
Yeah, this is a good question, because I get it often, right? When we're dealing with some kind of challenge. Again, it points back to priorities, and it points back to balance, right? And so when we know what we're doing with our priorities and the way we want to feel towards our balance, we can know how to reassess the goal. So basically, by reassessing the goal, you may ask yourself, what was the point of the goal? Right? Like, why did you make it? Was it to have fun? Was it to learn and grow? Was it for better health? Was it for just having an experience, right? So then you can ask yourself whether it's possible to still achieve that feeling, right? The experience, the learning, the better health, or whatever it may be, in another way while you're facing this challenge, right? So some people can just say, I want intentional movement for 30 minutes a day. And if it was to lose weight, maybe they can say, hey, I can try it for 20. Like, if I just go intentionally move for 20 minutes a day. Or if it was just to feel a certain way, then maybe they're like, hey, if I just do these little 10-minute bursts of like whatever HIIT type workouts, I feel the same way, and it's in less time, right? So just noticing, like, what was the way, why did you set the goal? What was the feeling you wanted to accomplish? Because life will always throw, as you mentioned, these challenges at us, and some are bigger than others. But really, when you know your priorities, you will know how to balance these goals, even when the challenges come up, in a way that actually complements you handling the challenge and being able to work on some of your goals. And when we have challenges in life, lots of times I really encourage my clients to always set goals with baselines and ceilings for your goal, so that even when life throws like an unexpected challenge, you can still maybe reach the baseline, right? It's like that minimum thing to just show that you're still working towards that goal, right? So when you set goals from the feelings and the experiences about who you want to become, right? Or who you want to be, right? Not setting a goal about achieving a specific thing. So like, instead you may say, like, I want to lose X amount of weight, right? That would be like a goal. But instead of saying that, it's like, who do you want to become? So when you set a goal from, I want to become a person that, and then like fill in the blank, right? Eats fruits and vegetables, works out X amount of times a day, limits their sugar, whatever that become is, then you will be able to focus on that. So even when your life throws an unexpected twist or turn, you can ask yourself, what can I do to still become this thing? Become the person I want to be. And as you are making little progress steps to become that person, the goal, right, lose X amount of weight, is naturally the byproduct.
I love that. I love focusing on the become. I love it. I love it. So, so good. So, one thing I'm asking every single woman that I interview on this podcast series is, do you feel like you're able to put your faith and family first and still go after your dreams?
And absolutely, right? It definitely I do, because that's what I'm trying to help women do and accomplish all day, every day. But I honestly believe that I think that anyone can. And here's why. It's because we get to choose how quickly we move after our dreams. And I think that's usually the huge key, right? We often think it should be a certain way, it should look a certain way, it should move at a certain pace. And that is the thinking that stops us before we even get started. So as a practice, right, I like to help women discover how it's possible to create like their business or to have these goals in a way that works for them. And it doesn't have to be any less successful or less productive at the pace that they choose, right? We traditionally think of like college education being like a 4-year education. Like that's kind of what we say, right? And that's just usually because traditionally, right, it's like a person that is spending most of their time being a college student and then the rest of the time maybe working part-time. But if you haven't gone back to college and you want to set it a goal, you can take 10 years, right? You could take 6 years. You get to take it at whatever path and whatever schedule you want to. But if we think it has to be done in 4 years, we get overwhelmed. We think it's impossible. But if we remind ourselves that we get to make the schedule, right? We get to create the boundaries for how it's going to look for us. And then in 6 years, we're going to have a degree. Well, if we don't start, we'll have 6 years on us and still not have a degree. So that's why I believe it's possible for everyone, just knowing that we get to set the time and the way that it looks for us.
I like that. I like the college analogy too, because sometimes you do fall into the trap of what's everybody else doing, what's socially acceptable in timeline wise. And we think that has to be the same for us. But in reality, we can choose. I love that. I love that. So we're getting to the near end of our advice, but I really wanted to ask you about this because I know that you're a spiritually minded woman. What advice do you have to keep your faith in God strong while going after a dream and raising a family at the same time?
We get to decide what your faith in God looks like. And we get to decide why it's important to you and how it's blessed you. And that's something you can do even before you start to pursue anything else, right? We also get to decide where our testimony will be and where it's at and what is important to us in our faith and our motherhood. Then knowing that, that's what is so important, because then we get to make that decision that no matter how busy we get or successful we get, or, fill in the blank, right? We know, right, if we make the decision ahead of time, that we will always, and then fill in the blank, right? So like, I will get really successful, I will get really busy, but I know I will always, and then make time to pray or attend my church meetings or read my scriptures or whatever that is. So lots of times women are afraid to go after their dreams because they're afraid of how it may change them. And they're afraid how it will change their relationship with their family and with God. And what I'm here to tell you is that it will 100% change their relationship, but it can be for the best, right? I really have a testimony that my relationship with God, now that I have pursued dreams and goals, has really increased because I've had to grow and learn to rely on Him and even put more trust in Him and in myself to be able to reach that full potential that I am meant to reach, right? We're always trying to grow ourselves and reach a new potential. So I really believe that going after our dreams does take a lot of faith and trust in ourselves, in our desires, and in God, and just reminding us that God wants us to be happy. And part of that happiness that He wants us to have is to grow into ourselves and to fulfill our desires. So when we go after our dreams, when we go after our desires, we are actually getting the opportunity to co-create with God rather than just like doing His will in, quotation marks. But His will is wanting us to learn to think for ourselves, to honor our righteous desires, to be able to make choices and create for ourselves. And so while we are learning to trust ourselves, to be a great mom, to be a great daughter of God, to be a great whatever, right, fill in the blank, we just know that we get to make the decision if we want to partner with Him on that journey or not.
I love that. I seriously got even a little teary thinking about how my relationship has grown with God in pursuing my goals and my dreams. When you said that, it just struck a chord with me because I have had to lean on Him so much, even just praying that things will work out or that I could be confident in my speeches or whatever it is, it really does strengthen your relationship with God. And I had never connected those two that really has brought me closer to Heavenly Father. So I'm glad you brought that up. I feel like we have been so fed by you today, and I am going to go and do some of these exercises that you have recommended. If people want to get to know you more, want to connect with you more, or even I know you offer, I think you do, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you offer free coaching calls to just connect with you, maybe like 10 minutes. Is that right? Where people can just try you out and see if you would work for them. Is that correct? Or am I just making things up?
Well, I do offer a free consult call if you think that this might be the right path for you and you want to discover more. Like, you don't just have to make the decision to start coaching with me. So I do offer a 50-minute complimentary consult call just so we can kind of discover what's not working for you, what is working for you, what you would want to change, what you want more of in your life. And then I can just explore like how I could possibly help. Or if maybe I don't feel like I'm the best fit for you, I can direct you into a path or another coach's path that can help you on your way. So I do offer that. Yeah.
I love it. So they can connect with you or you'll send them to someone who can't help them. I love it. So where can people find you and connect with you?
Come find me over on Instagram. It's just my name, Siri Payne Coaching. That's where I'm most active and like to hang out the most. I do have a website by the same name, and Facebook is the same as well.
Oh, perfect. And we'll have all of the spelling and the all of that in the show notes and on our Instagram and social media pages too. So Siri, thank you so much for being with us today and for taking the time and offering us so much wonderful advice to improve our lives and to go after our goals while still putting our faith and our family first.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.